channel.
Hey, you know what time it is, No Press fam? Welcome everyone to another episode of The Beatdown, the segment and channel where two worlds collide. I am your host, Class, and if you guys enjoy and like our content, you know what you do? You can share, you can like, or you can subscribe to the channel. Alright, moving on. Today we are officially going to do an episode because recently the new Groot show is going to come out. Season 2, I guess. So we figured, why not do an episode on this particular character? So I'm going to start things off by representing Marvel Comics Guardians of the Galaxy's own Groot. Alright, now let's get into the brief origin stories of Groot. Okay. And we're going to be talking about the Annihilation Conquest series of the Guardians of the Galaxy comics for the origin story, because there are multiple origin stories, and before that, you might find it's hard to believe Groot was actually considered a bad guy and a monster before he became this Groot that we all know and love. Alright, so let's start. Prisoned by the Kree, introduced to Star-Lord as a self-proclaimed monarch of Planet X, the Flora Colossi, hopefully I'm saying the right name for that term, race, also considered royalty. To add on from there, he explains to Jean at an X-Men party, the X-Men party apparently, his kind wanted to harm humans and it never sat right with him. He eventually makes friends with a little girl named Hannah and decides to help her escape. For doing such a kind act, he was banished from the homeland and would eventually meet his fellow team and his new family, the Guardians. And that is the brief origin story of Groot. Alright, so now let's get into the powers, abilities, and feats, shall we? He can fly in space. What? Something called a dendrokinesis. Hopefully I said that right. Can control timber and command any wooden substance. Sorry, that was my dog, guys. Bioluminosity. Hopefully I'm saying that right. And that's making things glow. Plasticity, extends his limb at will, able to shoot them out long distance or even reshape them into different forms. He has super strength, genius intellect, durability, size manipulation, instant cellular regeneration, fire resistance, chlorokinesis. Hopefully I'm saying that. I'm sorry, I'm butchering this because I'm not very well with names or terms. He is also a master of chlorokinesis. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Possesses the ability to control all plant life. He can create fully functioning mini clones, and this is according to screenrant.com. Alright, so there is a black vortex empowerment. He has self-sustenance, augmented botanic mass. This is according to marvel.fandom.com. And feats, he has slabbed Gorgon and Inhuman, punches the snot out of Gladiator. If you remember Gladiator is a cosmic level fighter. Grew from a dirt pile in 2 hours and then grew big and strong enough to escape a prison with Rocket, able to grab a hold of Adam's Magus, who's considered pretty fast, able to make his sap into flammable, hit him with concentrated dose of energy nutrients to have him grow back to fully powerful Groot. So let's say he's just small and puny. There's a certain nutrients that you can use to make him back to full size and ready to go again. Evenly matched with the Cosmic Ghost Rider. That's saying something. And this is according to Ivan, the Unstoppable channel on YouTube. Alright, so let's talk about the Endgame. So this is going to be a challenging one. But let's start off with the fact that the Swamp Thing, in certain comics, Swamp Thing has a human entity inside of him. So technically, Groot could technically rip the human part out of the plant life, and then Groot would win in that kind of way. There's still that argument, and I think Groot can do it. He's also plant-based. Both equally matched on that end, but of course, I do believe that he could probably rip the human out and give him the upper advantage in that way. Of course, there's also the argument about the flammable sap. At any point in time, if Swamp Thing and him are fighting and he doesn't know that the sap has anything in it, he could surprise him by throwing all the sap on him, fighting him left and right, and then when he's far enough, he could just start he could burst the sap into flames and then probably burn Swamp Thing in the process. Might not officially burn him, but it might do some damage or keep some distraction in the meantime for Groot to kind of recover, or to throw a couple more punches along with the fire being burned into Swamp Thing's body. Another argument, two other arguments I'll make, is the flying in space situation. Now, Swamp Thing can fly, but there hasn't been, I don't think in the comics, I'm not sure, I haven't read every Swamp Thing ever existed, but I don't believe he's ever flown in space. So if he has never flown in space, or he doesn't have the tolerance level for space, Groot has the upper advantage there. If they fight in space, or Groot decides to take the fight into space, he's away from his plant life, giving Groot much more of an upper advantage. And Groot's body's more adaptable in space compared to Swamp Thing's body. Eventually, Swamp Thing's body could freeze because of the vacuum of space, or the space itself could cause him to freeze at certain temperatures. Because obviously, when you're outside the vacuum of space, you're going to freeze and probably choke to death from lack of oxygen. So with Groot, it would be a different story. So maybe Swamp Thing's human part or his avatar might start breaking down. There's a numerous amount of things that could happen while in space. Now, the other thing I'll make as the argument is Swamp Thing isn't very strong in polluted areas. Groot isn't really, I don't believe, is affected by polluted anything. Obviously, he doesn't take kind to polluted environments, but given the adaptability, I do believe Groot has more of an adaptability to polluted environments compared to Swamp Things. But Groot is from a different planet. He's not from a certain Earth, so his ability to tolerate our pollution might be much more higher compared to Swamp Thing. So if Swamp Thing and Groot got into a fight in a very polluted environment where there's toxic chemicals or something breathing in the air, Swamp Thing will get weakened by that, because Swamp Thing needs healthy green in order to be strong and fight. If it's being toxic and being poisoned, it's harder for him to be able to use the power to his advantage, which means Groot could put him down at some point during a fight in that way. So yeah, I do believe that given Groot the flying ability, given Groot's ability to use the environment to his advantage to weaken Swamp Thing, or he could take the Avatar and the human apart. I do believe Groot can. There's just so many ways where Groot can do it. Now, I could make a bunch of other arguments about the extending of his hands and stuff, but again, Swamp Thing can do a bunch of things too like that. They both control nature environments, so it's hard to say that both of them would be able to overpower each other with like the green. But I do believe, with all the other arguments I've said, I do believe Groot from the Guardians of the Galaxy Squad could do it and win this and claim victory on this end.
Nah, my bud Groot wasn't turning tail like a coward. Save the world pod, the source of all life for every Groot that ever existed.
All right, and I'll be representing on this corner DC Comics, the Swamp Thing.
You are wiser than I give you credit for.
All right, so in previous episodes, I actually did discuss the powers, abilities, and the origin story of the Swamp Thing, so I figured why not give you guys that previous episode. Here you go, Mr. Class from the past.
Let's get into the brief origin stories of Swamp Thing. Alec Holland was working in Louisiana. He was a scientist working on an experiment of some restorative chemical or something like that. Unfortunately, the chemicals he combined together bursted into flames, and he burst into flames along with it. So in a panic, he jumped out the window, landed in a swamp. Now, a lot of people thought that because he landed in the swamp and he came back to life, he was the Swamp Thing. But unfortunately, that's not actually the case. He actually did die, but his subconscious or his mind was taken by an entity element that lived in the green, and it copied his mind and used his emotions and his humanity to make himself look like a human, so that way he wouldn't be scary to people when he showed his face. And that's the super brief origin of Swamp Thing. All right, now we're going to get into the powers, abilities, and feats, shall we? Element control, superhuman strength, healing factor, immortality, resurrection, something called chlorokinesis. I hope I'm saying that right. It controls plants in many forms. Self-sustenance, flight itself. He draws his power from a metaphysical realm that is connected to all plants on Earth, also being connected to the universe and creation as a whole. Survived the anti-monitor. This is impressive. The most impressive thing, I think. And he survived an anti-monitor anti-wave, meaning he stopped anti-monitor from wiping him out of existence. You know how he always likes to start things over with the DC characters? Yeah. Swamp Thing said, nah, I ain't having it, bruh. He said, I'm gonna live. He was the one who outlasted everybody. Think about how many characters in DC Comics he outlasted. Dr. Fate, everybody. Talking Black Adam, everybody. All right. Defeated Anton Arcane, who is on the power level of Trigon and the Spectre. Phantom Stranger stated Hell itself wouldn't want to mess with Swamp Thing and his element powers. Embodied all 4 elements and became the whole world. Okay? Swamp Thing turned his big enough to destroy an island.
All right, so now let's get into the end game, shall we? The first argument right off the bat is that Swamp Thing is connected to the universe green, meaning that every touch of green that exists in our planet or so forth, yeah, he's in touch with it, which means that, yeah, I do believe that you could make the argument that Swamp Thing would be able to either control Groot himself or control his ability to use his powers, considering he has control over the entire green plant-based life form in the universe. Even if technically Groot is wood, still plant-based related. Just so we're clear, it's still plant-based related. Okay, now between the two, when it comes to being wiped out, yeah, Groot can turn into a speck of dust and grow back into his form, but Swamp Thing survived what's it called? Anti-Monitor's wave, which means who wiped out the entire roster of DC characters, Dr. Fate, Superman, Etrigan, everybody. And he managed to survive that. So there is an argument to be said that you can really put him out officially compared to Groot. So, but on the other side, Swamp Thing could wipe Groot out of existence. And when it comes to growing himself back, which Groot can, it does take time and stuff like that. Swamp Thing can also probably control that possibility. He might be able to slow down the process, or might be able to stop Groot from getting the nutrients he needs in order to grow himself back into his full form. Either way, Swamp Thing has way more of an upper advantage wiping someone out compared to Groot, who it would be much more difficult to wipe out Swamp Thing. Alright, so if we're going to go back to the argument about how Swamp Thing has the avatar and you could take the human out of him, we have to make the argument back in the day where Groot had a weakness for termites. Yeah, that's right. Groot's weakness is to termites. So, because obviously Mother Nature and life, termites love wood, I guess it made sense to have some kind of termites be against Groot's weaknesses. So, yes, Swamp Thing could probably throw some termites at Groot in order to have him feed off off his body and weaken him, and then have Swamp Thing take advantage of him on that end from there. Yes, that is their possibility during a fight. He could do that to his advantage. Or there is the last and final argument I only really need to make, which is he could turn into the 4 elements. Okay, 4 elements. So he can shift his body into all these different forms and officially puts Groot down no matter what throughout the count. Groot is very strong in his plant-based form, but going against someone who can turn into 3 other elements in a moment and use it to his advantage against the plant-based form, yeah, I do believe he doesn't have a chance or a prayer against Swamp Thing, and I do believe Swamp Thing is just going to win this one right off the bat. But as always, no press fam, it's not up to me, it's up to you guys. So if you guys liked my argument, you know what you could do? You can either hashtag the Swamp Thing, or you can hashtag Groot. But as always, no press fam, we really appreciate you guys. Catch you guys later. Oh, also forgot, if you guys enjoy our content, please share, like, or subscribe. Alright, as always, catch you guys later. Much love. Peace.